Hi, I'm Donna Carlson. Welcome to the Crazy as Usual podcast, where we are normalizing the conversation around mental health. My guest today is Sandra Thebaud, a clinical psychologist with 30 years of experience and a specialty in stress management, which we can all associate with. Her Denver based practice is called StressIntel, helping people understand the causes of stress, identifying personal stress triggers, developing coping mechanisms, building resilience, and incorporating self care and relaxation techniques into daily life. Does that not sound fantastic? She has also written a book, Stronger Than Stress. That's you. So, we're going to talk about a variety of monkeys today to equip you. Welcome, Sandra.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here.
It's fun to have you. I love to see your smile. We were talking a little bit about the fact that we both wrote a book this year, and I know you also told me that you have a variety of monkeys. They come in different forms. But since I
Yes, they
just
do.
mentioned the book, I want you to start with you told me it was a 30-year process. And I encourage people to write their stories. And so I'm asking, what are the monkeys around writing your story in that book?
Like I mentioned, I've got lots of monkeys, right? The what if? What if nobody wants to read the book? Even
Mhm.
though I hear all the time, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed out. I need this stuff. So there's the what if monkeys. There's the I'm not enough monkeys. 30 years. I've been doing this for 30 years. Is that not enough? We've got to fight back against our monkeys, right? The biggest
Right.
one is my to do monkey. There's that monkey that just keeps saying that you need to be more productive. You need to be more productive. And I've got to remind this monkey that, hello, there's a difference between being productive and being busy. You can be busy and not be productive at all.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for saying that. You know, um, I was just explaining to my daughter how, because of different childhood experiences, I think I've worked extra hard to be extraordinary, to gain people's approval, to get those attaboys, and it led me down this path of just trying to perform and do it faster and do it better, which ends up meaning I make mistakes because I move too fast. Um, I love that you mentioned that we have to, like, keep in mind that, those monkeys that tell us that we have to do things are actually lying to us because sometimes being is more important than doing.
Oh,
And
completely.
yeah, just and being present helps us to manage a number of monkeys because that to-do list, I there were several times in the past 2 years when I told somebody how busy I was, and I got that smiling kinda, busy's not always productive." And I'm like, "Who to tell me?" Have you ever heard that from somebody?
I that's the reminder I've had to have, right? When you get somebody who's wise enough to smile at you and say, "Hey, busy is not productive."
And it
That
hurts
it does.
because you're
That
like,
to-do
"I work
monkey,
hard."
yeah,
Yeah.
that to-do monkey, I'd have to say that's my biggest monkey because that monkey will take me down the road of burnout if I don't watch out for him.
Have you
Because
been there and back or
girl, yes.
yeah,
I'm sorry to say I've been there and back twice.
yeah,
I even published an article about my experience with burnout because burnout is a little different from stressed out. Stressed
yeah.
out, you know it's happening. Burnout, you don't even realize you're on that road until you're there at the destination.
Till
And
you
that
fall off. I talk about it like the
yes,
precipice.
that's right. That's right.
Wow. So how did you once you hit burnout, how did you create the rhythms in your life to recover?
You almost have to go the opposite way. So for any of I'm sure your listeners are highly educated, high performing women, and we get a lot of our attaboys, as you mentioned, from doing that. And so it's a little scary for somebody to tell you, stop, just stop doing that for a little while, because
Mhm.
The key is the reason we end up in burnout is because we focus on one thing and we lose sight of the other aspects of well-being. And so the only way to get those other aspects of well-being to come back up online is to stop what you're doing. Whatever it is that got you into burnout, you have to stop doing it. If it's work, you're going to have to take a week, maybe 2 or 3 weeks off in order to recover and realize that, yes, you are giving up maybe some vacation time, but you're getting back your life, your energy, your peace of mind, your mental health. That's worth way more than a vacation.
So you did take that time off to recover?
I sure did.
And then what promises did you make to yourself when you went back to work? What did you
Of
change?
course, I said I would never get back into burnout again.
Twice is better than 3 times.
Right? That's true. That's true. But I came up with a little trick to keep that monkey from ever taking me down that road to burnout and anymore. So here's the trick, and hopefully this can help your listeners as well, is we all have somebody who has betrayed us or just flat out lied to our faces.
Mm.
So take that person's face and put it on top of that monkey's face. And next
Ah,
time that monkey tells you you're not doing enough, like you look at that person and you go, you've lied to me before, you've betrayed me before, and you're probably doing it again. I'm not listening to you.
wow. Wow. That's really brilliant. Um, Calling out the monkey, calling out the shadow self or the false self, if you're a Richard Rohr fan, um, it's it's important to be able um, to call out that false thinking, that imposter inside our brain. And I talked to somebody just yesterday who said she actually gives the imposter a name. Um, do you call out the activity, or do you actually identify that thought process as a person?
I don't identify it as a person. I identify the behavior itself that I find myself up into because I can now feel that energy, that feeling of I'm supposed to be doing something. That's what happened to me after my dissertation. I was just so focused on doing it that once it was done, you probably had the same feeling after writing the book, right?
Yeah.
You spend so much time writing the book that once it's done, you're thinking, okay, I should be doing something. And we forget that, no, what I should be doing is recovering right now.
Yeah, celebrate, recover. Somebody actually offered me a little sweet and I said, "We'll close down the bed and breakfast, let you have that sweet so you can come and recover. You can sleep, you can walk to the beach." And you know what? I didn't do it. I said, "Well, I've got to finish the publishing process, and then I have a launch party, and then maybe in November I'll take time off." And November came and December came, and I still haven't taken time off to
Oh
just recover.
no, Donna,
Yep.
that monkey is taking you on a ride.
I know. Well, you know what's interesting is since writing the book, I have been challenged more than ever. And honestly, all of my family members, have they been challenged more than usual, or are we just more aware that there are some monkeys trying to sabotage our lives? Did you experience any challenges like that after you published your book?
I this was the one time I've got to say where I saw that monkey coming and I said, no, no, no. And
Yes.
I literally shut down. I mean, I knew that I needed to get onto the whole marketing part of the book, but I intentionally decided this time I was going to shut down for a full 2 weeks and
Yes.
then come back to it. The book's not disappearing. So,
The book's not disappearing, and somebody actually pulled me aside at an event and said, "Donna, you're doing a great job, but,
oh,
um, don't wear yourself out. The book is out there, it's gonna be there, you don't need to rush, so just take your time." So, you've just inspired me, Sandra. I am going to somebody asked me to help her plan how to publish her book, so I'm kinda creating a checklist for other people to use, and, I think I want to design into this process these rest periods. We have
yes,
to. We have to.
yes.
And even a rest period between submitting the final manuscript and reviewing the final proof, because you got to get your head out of it. You need a third party editor before you get there. And I didn't know that this was going to be such a conversation about publishing a book, but is this your first book?
Third,
Third, okay. So you've been down this road before and you're
yes.
just doing it better.
But you know
I
what? It's like having a child, though. You have one and you think, I'm never going to do this again. And then you forget about the labor pains and the
oh my
delivery and
gosh.
you do it
You know,
again.
this with every one of my kids, they're all about 2.5 years apart, and it's because it took me that long to forget how painful my labor was. Can't imagine people who have their kids 11 months apart. I'm like, "Are you crazy?"
Yeah.
But, it's a beautiful thing. I'm glad that you've learned from it, and you've taught me a lot about the process. Um, I wanna be able to equip the women who are listening, who maybe they're not writing a book, maybe they need to write a book, maybe they don't need to write a book, and they just need to know how to combat the monkeys today. Maybe they're starting to see the signs of stress and burnout, and since you've done so much education and coaching on that, what are some of the signs that women might look for that they need to start a plan?
Yes. The number one sign you want to look for, because these monkeys, they come with ants. Ants stands for, and you're probably already familiar with it, automatic negative thoughts.
Oh,
So
I'm writing that down.
once you start thinking, I'm being lazy, I didn't accomplish enough, I'm not enough, any kind of negative thinking that you have in your mind, the monkeys are whispering at you. They are bringing
Yeah,
their nasty, dirty ants into your mind.
yeah,
That is going to be, I think, if you start to become more aware of your thoughts, you're going to become aware of the signs that monkey's around. Because the reason the monkey, that the one that took me down the road of burnout, did that more than once, took me down twice, is because I didn't recognize the scent of it coming around. I didn't
yeah.
recognize the warning signs, the signs that this monkey is in my life. I'm busy thinking, oh no, I'm being productive and this is making me feel good. And so why wouldn't I continue to do something that makes me feel good, that boosts my self-esteem? And the thinking that the opposite is, if I stop doing this, then that's a hit on my self-esteem. And again,
Right.
that's just the smoke and mirrors that come with the monkeys. So you got to
Yeah.
recognize the smoke and mirrors that monkey comes along with.
Right, right. That's so important. What do you think about um, having someone in your life who can help you spot those blind curves?
Gift that person that can help you find those monkeys every day. Tell them how much you appreciate them. There's nothing more valuable than someone who knows you, wants the best for you, has no agenda on how you should live your life, who just says, hey, have you maybe noticed XYZ about yourself lately? Or
Yeah.
I'm noticing this. Are you noticing that too? There, you're going to listen to somebody who you know has your best interest at heart more than that monkey. I think
Right,
it's invaluable.
right. Part of the process of normalizing the conversation about mental health at work is identifying someone who you feel safe to walk into their office and say, "Hey, can you help me diffuse this thought in my head and create, you know, translate it into something that's true?"
Yes.
Um, what's the best way to approach somebody to win that favor, that trust?
I'm very much into normalizing mental health, especially as a psychologist. I get people who are always like, oh, are you psychoanalyzing me? Don't worry about that. We all have our little crazy. Everybody does.
Yeah,
The people who don't think they're crazy are the ones that you need to worry about. So
that's
when
exactly
you're right? So when you're trying to decipher, is this person safe? How willing are they to be vulnerable about themselves? Because if this person's willing to be vulnerable about themselves, they're more likely to be compassionate towards you. So they
right,
understand, listen, I'm not perfect. I'm doing my best to improve myself, knowing that I'll never get to a state of perfection, but that doesn't stop me from trying to get better anyway. That's
right,
someone you can trust with your vulnerabilities. I really
right.
believe that that's what we need to do. Too many people will just be vulnerable and take risks with their
Right.
vulnerability and get hurt. And some people are
Yeah.
so closed off because they've been hurt that they don't even want to take a chance. So we need to find that happy medium as to how can we filter out and test who's worth me being vulnerable to and who's not.
I love that. And I wanna ask you a psychologist question, Sandra. Somebody once challenged me, "Are you vulnerable or are you transparent?" And without
Ooh.
any further explanation, what does that mean to you?
Oh, that's a good question. I've never gotten that question before. Vulnerable versus transparent. There's a lot of overlap between those two. So if you're looking at
Yeah.
a Venn diagram, there's really a lot of overlap between those two. I'm guessing that where they don't overlap is vulnerable is where you're also exposing your pain.
Yeah.
You're giving that person a chance to wound you, whereas transparent, there's a little bit of ego strength there where, yeah, I'm allowing you to see who I am, but you can't hurt me just because I'm doing that.
Mm. That's a good point. It's a good point. My monkeys were telling me that he was trying to, um, flag to me that I might be oversharing. And one of the things that, I do every year is reread the 4 agreements in January.
Of that book.
And, in addition to being impeccable with my words, something I have to constantly remind myself as in my 50s grow around the middle and have to look at myself with more compassion. Um, but one of those areas, that is really challenging for me is, understanding, um, when I'm being authentic, or when I'm, turning the conversation, away from the focus. And one of the big, um, challenges in the workplace is, hey, can we be transparent and or vulnerable in the right way with emotional intelligence, but know when to stop? And, how can we, keep productive and moving forward as a team and learn how to gate that vulnerability? I'm curious to know what you think. I'd be willing to share what I've heard, but I wanna know how you would advise somebody.
Yes, and I'd love to hear what others have said as well. I believe that there are different levels of vulnerability. So you can be at a high level of vulnerability with your partner, with your best friend, but that level of vulnerability is a lot lower when you're at work because there's a lot more risk to there's a lot the risk of the consequences are higher
Yeah.
at work.
Yeah.
You can't anticipate what the reaction is going to be. Again, if you're being vulnerable in front of someone who is not able to even be vulnerable with themselves, you risk that coming back to bite you in the butt later on.
Yep.
So I always caution people how much vulnerability they expose themselves to someone who has power over them.
Mm, that's a really good point because you risk judgment and, just that exposed limitation that might make somebody wonder if you're capable of doing the job, which I think is unfortunate. I think, one of the things that I've discovered a lot from the guests on this podcast is that if we're taking a compassionate approach to leadership, we're gonna look for, those blind spots in our team so that we can continue to equip our team to be awesome. If we see something that looks like it might be wrong and use that against them or to put them on a performance plan, then we're actually risking the integrity of the whole team. Everyone's gonna be afraid
That's right.
to b to be honest. So there's a balance there. And we
Yes.
also can't control the world that we live in. We can only control ourselves.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes. And being aware of the world that you live in is so important.
yeah,
So it's like traveling to another country. You need to be
yeah,
aware of the differences in the cultures. And so there's a culture in your workspace that you
yeah,
need to be aware of that is going to help you dictate how you can interact in that. That's what emotional intelligence is. It's understanding your environment so that
yeah,
you can thrive within that environment.
yeah. I like to think of myself as an ambassador. In that way, I take myself out of it. I am just representing my country. Or in the case of the workplace, I'm representing my role, the domain that I'm protecting, and I'm looking around to see what's the best language to win trust with this person or this person? How do I get this person on board? And it's not about me. It's about being effective in that role. It takes me out of what do they think of me?
I love that. That's very well said.
So, what kind of trends do you see in the women that you help in terms of burnout or stress management? Are there certain trends or like three main things to pay attention to or to tweak in your life?
Absolutely. The major trend that I'm seeing right now is this lack of understanding that just because we are no longer, quote unquote, in a pandemic, that we still haven't, that we've recovered from all the stressors from the pandemic. There's still a lot of residualness that's still around from everything that we went through in 2020, 2021.
Yeah.
2023 didn't mean that we went back to the world as if 2020 and 2021 didn't exist. Our
Right.
systems didn't go back. So stress is cumulative. All
Yeah.
that stress that we went through in the pandemic, we can't let our guard down and not understand that self-care is so important. So I
Right.
just want to encourage everyone that self-care is just as important as it was 2 years ago, and it's probably even more so now because
Right.
we're letting our guard down as in terms of thinking, oh, I'm not under as much stress as I was during the pandemic. You are because you're still recovering from everything that happened. We can see that in our children, that
Oh,
they are still recovering from the lack of social interaction and
right.
their ability to sleep and learn. So self-care and self-compassion are the top two that I want to let everybody realize and accept that it's important and it's okay to engage in self-care and self-compassion.
Can I ask a question there?
Absolutely.
Clarifying question. Um, in order to uh, keep those commitments to self care, I compare myself to a coworker who puts the kids to bed and stays up till 11 or 12 working and doesn't get 8 hours of sleep. And because she stayed up late working, maybe she doesn't get up and go for that run or that walk or that yoga practice. And it might seem okay for a moment, but if it's continual, if you do it for one deadline, it's an exception, but it can become a continual ritual if we're not careful. So, is it possible to practice good self-care and still stay extraordinary in our work?
I absolutely believe that it's possible. And I'm going to speak from personal experience because I have been that mom that is taking care of the kids, taking them to school, going to work, picking them up, making the dinners, getting back to work after they go to bed because I was a single parent and it's not sustainable. And I've had to have a real serious talk with that monkey about not coming back. It's not sustainable. So one of the methods that I have found that maybe might work for other women as well is you would never force your child to live the life that you are living yourself.
Mhm.
And so I look at myself in the mirror. This is one of the things that I do for my well-being. I look at myself in the mirror and I say, I love my children so much, and I love myself just as much. If
Yeah.
you compare your children or whoever it is that you love, so not all women have children, but you love something, your fur baby, your partner, you love someone, something that you would never put them through this, equate yourself with that. And that's
Yeah.
gonna make it a lot easier for you to give yourself self-love, self-care, because you know what to do. We all
Yeah.
know what to do. We know we should be getting 8 hours of sleep. We should be eating healthy. Don't start the day off with a donut and coffee. It's just gonna ruin your metabolism and everything else. We know
Right.
what to do. What's stopping us is the emotion. So we always have to pair our mental well-being with our emotional well-being because one of
Mhm.
the other is always gonna be what's sabotaging us. So if you can get that emotional piece there, it's going to make it a lot easier for you to do what you know you should be doing for yourself.
Right. Right. That's really good, and that's part of the just setting up those flags, those triggers. I remember one day I said, "This is gonna be the day that I decide that I'm not gonna have any grain because it slows me down." Well, somebody brought gluten-free donuts to work, and I went, "Oh, well, what a great idea." But I didn't have just 1, I had, like, 6.
I was the
And
universe
that
testing you.
that little flag in my head didn't say, "Nah, Donna, I think 1, maybe 2," but then you cut it off. It's it's crazy how our emotions sabotage and overcome our prefrontal cortex when it comes to little decisions like that.
Absolutely. You gotta make sure both pieces are on board. You've got your
Mhm.
left brain that's just very logical and knows what to do, and then you've got the right brain that's much more emotional and connecting with others, on a social level. They both have to be on the same page wanting the same thing, otherwise one's gonna sabotage the other.
Mm, so true. Well, I cut you off earlier when I asked that question. Did you have more points that you wanted to offer, um, in terms of those strategies that keep us from, sabotaging ourselves?
Yes. Well, you helped me kind of actually complete it because it's bringing the two hemispheres on board so
Okay,
that you
yeah,
can do what it is that you know you want to do. I encourage people to take care of the four pillars of well-being. You have to take care of your physical health in one way or another. Just means
mhm,
it could be get making sure you get adequate sleep. It could be moving. Take care of your mental health. For myself, it's journaling, just getting all of these thoughts and monkeys
yeah,
out on paper so that they can't stay in my mind rent free.
uh-huh,
You have to take care of your emotional health.
yeah,
Do you have people in your life that you can talk to about some of the things you're going through? And you also need to take care of your spiritual life. Do you practice gratitude? Do you feel connected with the universe?
yep. That gratitude practice is part of my journaling practice because it helps me to synapse from the download to shift to gratitude. And it's so funny, there is a point of time where when I was going through a struggle, my gratitude practice ended up every day being, "I'm thankful for the dog, I'm thankful for my cushy bed, I'm thankful for coffee." And so then I finally said, "Okay, my gratitude practice has to go outside the dog, the bed, and the coffee."
So, Donna, let me tell you about one thing I did last year with my kids starting January 1st. I had these big sheets of paper and I put it on the wall in off of my dining room. And every night, the kids and I had to write on these little sheets of paper one thing that either made us smile or that we were grateful for or we really appreciated. We did that every day of
Nice.
2023. At first, I
I
was just
love
going to do
that.
it for the month of January. Halfway through the month of January, I thought, "This is really good. How do I convince the kids to do this for the whole
Need to
year?"
keep doing it. That is a great idea,
Yeah,
and January is a good time to put that into practice. Thank you.
perfect.
That
Yes,
is beautiful.
yeah.
Ah, I wish we
Halfway
weren't running
through,
I wish we weren't
I
running out of time because I think there's just so
no.
many good ideas that you have, and, this is so much fun. What's one thing that you wanna leave people with concerning your practice and how you help others?
The way I help people the most, I think, over the last 30 years is helping them to understand that some of the things that happen in our mind that we think makes us crazy actually makes us normal. Everybody has a bit of anxiety. Everybody gets depressed every now and then. Everybody worries about their future, has to reconcile issues in their past. We are all the same in that way. As
Yeah,
long as you're constantly trying to make yourself better, you're doing a great job. Unfortunately, I know a few people who are not even trying. So if you're
I
one of
know.
those ones who are trying, kudos to you. You are awesome.
Absolutely. Well said, and, that's why I have all of your contact information in the show notes. If somebody feels like they need to talk to you more, they can find you, and, just grateful for your time on this podcast today. I just get so much encouragement out of just seeing your face and talking to you. Thank you. This has been the Crazy as Usual podcast with Donna and Dr. Sandra Thebaud. And you can find this on LinkedIn. I will post a link to the YouTube podcast, and I'll also post a link on Instagram at Crazy as Usual with Donna. So look it up, share it with your friends, and stay crazy and be brilliant. Thank you.